You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Don't need to talk to me anymore. Well, you brought them up to be independent, so you just got to let them find their own flow, haven't you?
You do have to let them find your own flow. I'm just setting the camera. So basically, I was one of 5. I know it's not easy being one of 5. It's also very expensive. I wanted to have 4 kids. I'll be honest with you, we tapped out at 3. It was just like, we're done. 3's done. So hat off to you and your former wife for producing 5. Well done, mate.
Well, we had 4 together, and then I met another lady. We had 1, and she's the one what's the issue.
Oh no.
Yeah. So she does everything to stop me seeing my son.
So you know what? Your story's not alone. Do you know the number of guys I've met who have difficulty accessing their children? It's a huge problem. And I want to speak to someone who runs a charity about dads and their kids. Like, on one side they go, their dad's not present and, he's not a caring dad. But then at the same time, when the dad actually wants to be present and wants access to their child, they do everything possible to stop them. And the court system drains you of your money and your resources and your energy, and it seems to be against you.
£10,000 I spent.
Mate, you're lucky. I know people who spent a lot more than that.
I spent £10,000 to get access to see, and he was 5. He's now 10, wide awake. And that's what pisses his mum off. Is the fact that, for his side, he came to stay with me one Christmas and his phone went flat. So I just chucked in my mobile phone. Well, of course, if you've been using YouTube, you'll know yourself that AI is great at finding you what you normally look for.
Yeah, the algorithms.
So he came into me and he said, Dad, can we have a chat? I said, yes, mate. And he said, do you believe in flat earth? And I looked and I was like, sorry? He said, do you believe in flat earth? And I was like, well, I don't know. I said, maybe the earth's bigger than we think it is, so the bit we're on is flat. I said, I don't know if I believe that we float around space on a plate. But then he come back and he said, do you know about the moon landing? I was like, moon landing? So he questions things at school a lot, which, obviously then causes issues. He's questioned the pyramids, and because his mum and her partner at the time took him there, he was learning about pyramids at school, and they said, these great things, which they found pharaohs buried in. He's like, actually, that isn't true, miss. So it's a kind of question thing. She was like, well, and he said to her, how do you know? She said, well, because I'm teaching you about it. He said, but have you been there? Well, no. Well, I have, miss, and this is what I saw. This is what I was told out there. And, so I think that's what I love about kids. Normally, when, certainly I'm 57, when I was a kid, I was taught to ask every question everything. And that now most of the kids are so busy looking at a computer screen, they never even look up to know if there's a question to ask.
They don't even look up to the sky to see the stars or the chemtrails. They don't even look up. They're just looking down at their bloody screens all the time. I mean, you'll like this. And my middle daughter, I love her. Cheeky, rebellious, doesn't listen to a thing I say. I've got no one to blame but myself for that. But she comes home on the way home from school. She goes, Dad, I want to tell you something. I went, yeah. Very hushed tone. She looks around to see there's no other children or parents as we're walking back to the car. And she goes, Dad, the teacher was teaching us garbage. I was like, oh, yeah? Yeah, Dad. She's like, oh, carbon dioxide is going up and the planet is dying. Daddy, how stupid is she? And then she was like, yeah, because cows are farting and burping. It's like, oh, my goodness, what is wrong with you? Hello? And I was like, baby, well done. And the teacher believes all this. She goes, yeah, she's so stupid. And I'm like, I know, baby. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad you can see it. And she goes, we need the sun, Daddy. We need sun for life. My 8-year-old girl gets it, and the teachers don't.
I know. You have to ask how we ever got here, don't you? Because...
Planet Clown World?
we were taught carbon dioxide, the gas of life. So we grew up realising it was quite an important thing. And we would look at the fact that trees grow, grass grows green, and as a result of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we do a fair exchange with the plants. Plants live, they give us oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, and the cycle goes on.
Yeah.
And then you get clever people, which people we're led to believe are clever, teachers and, people with degrees and things, and they can't see this. And I'm like, where do you look?
No, mate. I'm. By the way, you openly admitted you don't know anything about me before you came into my studio.
Nothing.
I'm not upset about that. But listen, I'm very blunt and to the point. These people are freaking retarded. Like, I'm sorry. Like, let's not mince our words. They're retarded. Right? I don't care how many dongs, letters, credentialed, expert. These people might be highly educated, but they're also highly indoctrinated and dumb as shiitake mushrooms. Yeah. So basically, like you just said, this beautiful system, right? Where the sun is the life giver. That photonic energy gets decelerated into solid matter. That light hits chloroplasts and chlorophyll. This beautiful symbiosis between possibly this bacteria that ended up living in plants, this symbiotic relationship. It converts that photon light energy using carbon dioxide as its food into energy in the form of sugar and oxygen as a waste product. We then take those waste products, the sugars and energy and the oxygen, and then we expel carbon dioxide. And then you got this beautiful cycle. It's beautiful. But now we're told this gas of life is death. I'm sorry, that's retarded.
But what you've got to understand is when you follow the money, as we all have, and you start looking into it and you start to really, really understand that it's the twistedness of where they're going with it all is what keeps them going, keeps them afloat and keeps them buzzing. And I'm sure of that because, like you say, nobody, if you've got to, my age, I'm 57. So by the time you've got to my age, you've experienced a few things in life. And, some of those good, some bad, some indifferent, but you start to understand the basics of life. And the basics is when the sun's out, I feel good. If it's a dull day, I feel bad. So if the sun's shining and they can stop it to make us feel bad and make us get weak and make us get ill and then need to sell us something to make us feel better, whether that's a new iPhone or, some health drugs or whatever that might be, and you've got to look at this and think, surely at some point someone's got to step in and go, no, we can't do this anymore. But they don't.
No.
And it seems that commercial ventures nowadays are so big that there is nothing else out there apart from that. When we were kids, there was loads and loads of people who had the initiatives to be able to get on with things, do things, go and start a business, go and do a market on a weekend, whatever it was to earn some cash. And it was easy for us to earn cash. Now, they've stripped all that away and now they've stripped away the thought set, the knowledge of being able to do that as well. So now, where we were, I was a Thatcherite kid, we were taught go and get on with life and, you can earn some money. And here we are now, kids are being told, well, just stay at home and we'll look after you. It's like, well, how did we get here? This is total trash.
How did we get here? How did this nation of shopkeepers just become a nation of just passive consumers? But the reality is, look, I wrote about this on my Substack and I was like, look, we can blame the few, right? The few bad people in their citadels and castles and lairs or whatever. These bad people, the nameless people. But the reality is we enable it all.
Absolutely.
We've enabled it all. Yep. Right? I'll play this out, right? Play this out. Imagine you've got this James Bond villain type person in the castle, right? And he rings up this politician, right? He goes, right, I want you to pass this law and legislation to the Prime Minister, right? You're going to do this, otherwise I'm going to post the pictures of you with that little boy.
Yeah.
And imagine that politician goes, well, I'll do your best. I'm not going to do this to my people. I'm not going to do this to my sovereign nation. And I'm a patriot. I love my country. And this evil man goes, right, I'll call the next politician along. I'll sack him and get the next one. And the next one goes, no, I'm not going to do that. He's like, he's going down this little diary and ringing up all these, and every single one goes, no, I'm not doing that. So then this guy goes off, I'm going to call the police, chief of police, and tell them to lock up these politicians or put them in jail. And the head of police goes, nah, I'm not doing that. That's bullshit. No, I'm not doing it. He goes, all right, fine, I'm going to call your assistant. calls the assistant. The guy goes, nah, I'm not doing that either. And he goes through his list of all these police officers, and not one goes, yeah, I'll do it. Everyone goes, and he's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Then he calls his security guard and goes, all right, listen, get the driver. I'm going to go down. And he goes, the driver's walked out. We don't have a driver anymore. He goes, what? He goes, yeah, and you know what? I don't want to work for you either. You're a complete dick. Hands him the gun and the walkie-talkie and walks out. Driver's gone. No politician's listening to me. I'm going to call the journalist to tell them what's going on. Journalist goes, nah, I'm not interested in your stories and your lies and your propaganda. And he keeps going down. The editors, all the people. No one wants to listen to him. He goes, fuck it, I'm hungry. I'm going to call for some food. I'm going to tell my cook to cook me something. Cook goes, I'm not interested. And now sitting in this castle lair, all on his own. Yeah. No one wants to talk to him. He's got all the money in the world, but no one will do his bidding. Everyone goes, fuck off. The power of saying no. We give them the power.
100%.
Do you not think this is the case?
I do. But now don't you see the other side of the problem? All these people are bought off. They are all paid for. They have all got the pictures on them, haven't they? And this is where we are. But most people won't take one for the, people say to me, oh, you're very brave going around doing your talks. I don't give a fuck. I've got to the point, I'm 57, and I genuinely believe I'm blessed, right? I've lived in a country for 57 years with no war on our own turf. We might have caused plenty worldwide, but we've not been involved. We've never had food shortages. And I think to myself, I'm really blessed. If it all goes bollocks up for me today, I've had 57 really good years on this planet. So for me, I only now do what I do for my kids and grandkids. My kids really barely talk to me. These are your guys, yeah? For me, mine barely talk to me because I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm right wing and all the other things, what they like to chuck at me. The funniest thing was, and you've obviously met my partner, Gloria, this morning.
Oh, yeah, I can see you're a racist.
Absolutely.
You know what? I mean, I'm sorry, but that's such a stereotype, getting a nice, tall, blonde.
Absolutely.
White. Yeah.
I was
just in case people don't know, Gloria is
a black Nigerian. She's black.
Thanks. There you go.
And I find it entertaining because I was at a petrol station and I had a reform trailer on the back of the truck, and I was out doing some canvassing for them pre-election last year before I woke up to what was really going on that side. And I was out, and the guy says to me, he said, it's because you're racist, you're supporting them. The woman on the pump next to me was one of my veg customers, and she said to me, she started laughing, and she says to me, is he for real? So the guy says, what are you going on about? So this lady, Angie, she says, Mark's partner is black. She's not just black, she's black. And, this guy's, it's because you're right wing, it's because you're this, because they don't know anymore. No one knows how to challenge you over anything. I couldn't just be supporting it because I thought it was a good thing to do. It must be because of A, B, C and D, because that's what the BBC said.
Yeah.
And as a result of the narrative saying this, then it must be part of it. And I just find that highly hilarious that we live in such a real fucked up world now.
Well, I just think you're a very clever, devious, right-wing racist. And you're using poor Gloria's cover. Well, listen, I mean, I totally get you, mate. So I supported Brexit. I realised that the EU was this anti-democratic, globalist apparatus, right? Yep. And so I'm out canvassing, and people would come up to me and go, you right-wing Nazi racist. And I'm like, have you seen my skin colour? I'm like, and it's funny because I was born in Glasgow. I grew up in the 80s, and NF was, National Front was big and everything. I remember my dad's shoe shop getting broken into, literally dog poo being shoved through the letterboxes and, horrible stuff, horrible, and spray painting, like you packies go back home or whatever. And I've been called a packy and nigger and everything. And now I'm being called a racist right-wing Nazi. And I'm like, right, full circle there.
Absolutely.
It's like, great. But this is, like you just said, it's a small-mindedness. These people can't think out of their little talking points and labels, name-calling. It's just nonsense. It's like calling in a conspiracy theorist or a dirty anti-vaxxer. It's like, you don't know how to argue your point across. So you belittle, disgrace, disgruntled people just, that's it. It comes down to name-calling. But the problem is name-calling is quite powerful. It's a cheap and nasty trick that works. It sticks. And then people go, oh, I don't want to be associated with you because you've been called that name. So if I talk to you, that means I'll be associated with you, and I don't want to be called that name. And everybody then cowers, and everybody's scared. And the problem is, most people aren't like you or me. So it's clear you're not scared of death.
No, not at all.
You're not scared of dying. You're not scared of anything. You're fearless. And that's ultimately what the government fears from you, the fact that you are immune to fear. And the problem is, more people need to grow a pair of ovaries and balls and learn to just say, I'm not scared. What are you going to do to me? That's where it stops. But anyway, can I ask you something about farming? So is it true that most farmers are filthy rich?
Some are.
Who's rich and who's not?
Okay, let's class what we deem as farmers to start with. Are we talking about landowners? And if we are we talking about Lord or Lady so-and-so, who might have 10,000 acres sitting in trust, what was put in there about 500 years ago, and they're still benefiting from that. So they might be particularly rich. And how the system was set up years ago to be in the position of collecting subsidies from the government.
Yeah.
It was always geared that people with excessive amounts of land benefited really well.
Of course they would.
And people who were on small farms didn't benefit, so they became bankrupt, and then the big farms could buy them up.
Right, so hold on one sec. So say, how many farmers are there in the UK, roughly?
About 200,000.
200,000 farmers. And of those 200,000 farmers, how many of them own the land and how many of them are renting it and working on land that's owned by someone else?
I would say, and I'm hazarding a guess at this.
Yeah, just total guesstimates.
I would say it's about 50-50. Now, within, you have the lords and ladies who own the manors and still own these massive, great big farm estates. And within them, they probably don't farm that land. That land's then leased out to tenant farmers. So a big percentage of the land across the country is owned by those people. Then you come down to farmers of probably 500 acres down to 50 acres that are owned farms.
Right.
And they were probably smaller at some point, and they've bought up the neighbouring farms as they've closed down. Or they were bigger at some point, and they've had to sell off the land to pay the taxes along the way over the past 500 years. So you end up with a scenario where you've got the people who are growing and producing the food are the lowest form of farmers. And then we've got the next bunch of the guys who tend to sit in the middle of claiming massive amounts of subsidies and growing. If I give you a classic example, so we come from Bury St Edmunds in East Anglia. And in Bury St Edmunds, all the fields around East Anglia produce wheat, barley, sugar beet, maize, oats, wheat, whatever it might be. Okay? They're all commodity crops. So there's no food, there's no fruit and veg, there's no meat. So we produce all this stuff that goes into manufacturing of food.
Processed food.
Processed food.
Crap.
Absolute shite, yeah, what we don't need. So for me, I have a real, and I can't, do you know what? I've been on this tour now for 3 months. We've got about another 4 months to do on this tour. There's not one talk I'm doing in the whole of East Anglia. and that just strikes me as being, it sums the situation up now.
So that area, just in case people don't know, because I've got an international audience, like it is flat land, it was wet land, it was like drained, it was very flat, very easy to farm, and also it was nutritionally quite good soil because you had the water coming in. But it's just been kind of depleted and raped over the years.
100%.
So all the nutritional value is just gone from it. And now it's just commodity. So am I right? Like Norfick's nearby.
Yep.
Didn't you have the Norfick crop rotation?
Yeah. So
that's completely gone out the window, even though it's from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just explain what that is.
So we would work a system where on either a 4 or 5 year basis, you would have a bank of animals that work their way around your farm. So whether that's pigs, chickens, sheep, cows, whatever, and you would move them around the farm field to field to put fertilisation and put the goodness back into the ground.
Organic matter.
Absolutely. That's the key.
That's the key.
Right. So for me, I'm an organic farmer. Well, I'm a chemical-free farmer. I don't agree with the word organic because it's one of those words what was bounded about by the food industry who wanted to make people who grew good quality food look like they were different. So for me.
And also the word is corrupted. A lot of organic isn't healthy, wholesome either.
Well, listen, let me tell you something quickly.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine rang me and he said, I've got a nitrate tester. And this is a little gadget you plug into the veg and it tells you the amount of nitrates in it. He said, could I borrow it? I'm getting into doing organic and I really want to understand it. He said, and I'm going to Waitrose. He said, is there any chance I could borrow a nitrate tester? I said, if you go into Waitrose, get 10 things. So bunch of carrots, bunch of organic carrots, cucumber, organic cucumber. Get 10 of each. So he said, okay. So I went round with the tester and we tested 10 of the veggies from Waitrose. And the organic ones, 90% of them had more nitrates in than the normal fruit and veg.
Shut up.
Honestly, my mate nearly died. He was like, no, that can't be. There must be something wrong with the machine. Test it. There's the instructions. Test it. So what it comes about is that organic veg is bought predominantly because we have very few organic good growers in the country. It's bought in from overseas. And the biggest producer of organic veg in the world is China.
Oh.
So we import it. And obviously their standards are slightly different to ours, as you can imagine. So they import all this stuff. And then when it gets here, you test it and it's like, Jesus, it's like, radioactive. It's got, nitrates in it. It's everything we don't want to be eating.
Heavy metals.
Absolutely. So,
oh, wow.
It's comical.
So even I'm sure though, if you go round and it says organic, it says where it's made.
Well, okay, let's talk about that one.
Yeah, tell me.
So I don't know if a lot of you viewers will know a guy called Richard Vobes, and Richard came out to interview me on the farm, and we did a talk outside my little farm shop, and it strikes me as being highly hilarious. So what happened was Richard's doing this video, and I happened to mention in the video while we were doing it is about vegetable washing, and Richard looks at me and says, well, what's that? Is it where you get a bucket of water and wash the vegetables? And I said, no, this is where, so I explained. Let's take, for instance, Red Tractor as an organisation. Now, they're a limited company. They're not a government body. They're just one of these things what's been set up along the way. And if you are a wholesaler and you import, let's say, onions from Egypt and you bring them into the UK and you take them to an English farmer who's run out of red onions that he grows and you sell them to him and he then bags them in his own bags, stating they're English, that they are Red Tractor guaranteed, and that everything is done correctly.
Shut the
Oh, this is big business. So
so that kind of vegetable washing, like money washing. And
absolutely. So listen, I put this...
Passing off dirty money is clean. Laundering it. You're laundering the vegetables.
Absolutely.
You are kidding.
So the video went out, and the next day I had a call from Red Tractor. And they said, very upset with what you said about this. And I said, okay. I said, look, they're threatening legal action against me and Richard. And I said to Richard, don't reply to them. Let me deal with it. So I had to think over a couple of days and I rang them back and I said, look, sorry for the delay. I said, what's the issue? She said, well, we're going to take legal proceedings against you because of what you said. And I said, okay, well, look, what about if I did a retractive video? I said, obviously, I understand I've done is wrong. It was incorrect information and it's terrible that I should do such a thing. She said, okay. She said, that sounds perfect. So I very carefully worded a video, put it together. And it was a 10-minute video and it's on my YouTube channel. Brilliant. And so for the first 9 minutes, I did this great apology. It was like War and Peace, about what a bad boy I was. And then in the last minute, I just added one line. It was like, but obviously, if you work in a farm or a pack house and you've seen something like this going on, obviously let Red Tractor know because, they need to know. And left it at that. They had nearly 200 phone calls in one day.
Wow.
They were savage.
Wow.
Never contacted me again.
Wow.
But it's big business. So where I live in Bury St Edmunds, so I won't name whereabouts, but just over the border into Norfolk, there is a farm, which is a very big estate, and they own a lot of land out in Egypt. And they import red onions at certain times of year, which are their own. They grow them out in Egypt, and they import them via Ipswich docks, and they end up in their packing plant, and they go into the supermarket.
Shut up.
As Red Tractor certified, that produced in England. No, they're not. And I know because their lorry drivers ring me and they say, hey, but we're now on the red onions again. All the grain that's coming in from Ukraine, it's going into Tilbury docks and then getting shipped up to the Midlands to make British bread. People have no idea. Would you want to eat anything coming out of Ukraine at the moment?
No.
With what's been dropped out there?
No.
Go.
It's all a joke.
It's so corrupt. And it's not just a little bit corrupt. The food industry is rife.
But it's all these lords and manors and lords and ladies and their manors and all these people well connected to the politicians. It's just corrupt. I'm sure there's a bit of Freemasonry in there as well. A bit of funny handshake business going on.
You can bet it.
So, okay, fine. So most farmers, well, say half the farmers are working on other people's land.
Yep.
And half the farmers have got their own land. But even the ones that have got their own land, realistically, they might be asset rich but cash poor.
Yep.
Am I right?
Absolutely.
Like, how much money does that average farmer make? Like, what's the money like? You know, they say they got like 100 acres
Yep.
and they're growing all this commodity.
Yep.
How much are they actually making out of it? And what's the process? And are we gone past the day where we're still spraying glyphosate? Has that been banned yet? Or is that still going on?
Still going on.
Do you know a few years ago, just across the road from here, this field, right? I was walking with my family. They'd come, like my extended family, they'd come, we were taking them for a nice walk, saying, oh, look where we live, it's lovely. And over this little hill, right, Chiltern Hill, over this hill, this massive machine came along with this spray thing. It was spraying and the wind just blew it towards. We couldn't breathe.
Yeah, you won't.
We had to run. Like my old mum, like in her late 60s at the time, she was like running crazy. Like, you know, everybody's running. Like this like gaseous smog fog descended upon us. It was horrific. And then I was like, hold on one sec. This is like before I probably woke up. If they're spraying on the fields and the crops,
Yeah.
and this is what it's doing, like 1-2 inhalations, and it's making us literally run for our lives. How can this be good for the crops, the soil?
But it's not. That's the problem.
So what's going on there? Explain all that.
Okay, so when I left school and went to university, I'd spent all my life working alongside my grandfather, who was a very much had a cow herd. He was an organic farmer, and understanding, he worked and nurtured the land, right? Understood it.
Caretaker.
Yeah, a proper caretaker to the land. Now, I went off to university, and here's how it now works. Universities have obviously been compromised, bought out. So we were taught, if you want something to grow, put nitrogen on it. And if you want to kill the weeds, put glyphosate on it. And that's all you need to know. So the system works. Drill. The minute it starts to come up, put some nitrogen on it. Starts to grow. Now, so do the weeds. So chuck some glyphosate on it. Now we need it to grow a bit more. Put some more nitrogen on it. Then some more glyphosate. Then some more nitrogen. Now, just getting ready for harvest, we must get it to run through the combine at 15% percent of moisturiser or less. So now we chuck 2 lots of glyphosate on it, double the amount, to kill it completely, to make sure it'll go through the combine. Now, can you imagine what that does to your body? Now, you probably know this, but lots of people might not. If you're in the position that you're allergic to gluten, gluten, most people actually are not allergic to. What they're allergic to is the protein change in the wheat from the glyphosate.
Wow.
So people go, oh, no, I'm allergic to gluten. No, you're not.
Yeah. What's all this massive rise in gluten allergy? Gluten-free carrots. Like, you've seen that crap. Like, this drink is gluten-free. I'm like, what? Like, there's never even any gluten in there.
Yeah, but the trouble is people buy it, don't they?
You buy it.
All the time. They buy the bullshit.
Right. So let me explain some few things to you, okay? So basically, on a cellular level, right, glyphosate is it's that thing called Roundup, right?
Yep.
And it's one of these, I think, forever chemicals or whatever. And it's known for its effect on plants, but animals as well. And that's what people don't really appreciate. And it's on a cellular level. I made some notes, so I'm going to read from it. So even though they say it's safe, it's not safe. I mean, there's quite a lot of things that have been touted over the years as safe and effective. Right? We know about that, don't we? Safe and effective.
Did that work out for us?
Yeah. Right. So number one, it disrupts the Shikimate pathway, which is only found in microbes. Humans don't have them, but gut bacteria do. And we've got more gut bacteria in us than human cells.
Yep.
So in some ways, we're basically like this planet traveling around carrying these bacteria, gut bacteria, who outnumber us by quite a lot. And it blocks the enzyme EPSPS, which these microbes including our gut flora,
Yeah.
used to produce essential amino acids like tryptophan, tyrosine, and phenylalanine. Those amino acids are your building blocks for things like dopamine and serotonin, right? Your happy hormones,
Yep.
all these other hormone precursors, right? And impact, so it disrupts your gut microbiota imbalance, impaired serotonin and melatonin synthesis. Now, you might be thinking, who gives a shit about melatonin? Melatonin is such an important hormone. It's one of those things that captures the light, the cellular process, the energy delivery, everything. So you've got gut inflammation, you've got leaky gut, and that means that you've got toxins going into your bloodstream, allergies, autoimmune conditions, a weakened immune system. That's one off the bat, right? Number two, it interferes with your mitochondrial function. Now, if people don't know what mitochondria are organelles in the cells. In every single cell, there's hundreds of them, and they're like little powerhouses. They create the power, the energy. They convert that light energy into electrons and energy, ATP, all that kind of stuff that drives your life, your existence. Ultimately, you as a human being are a being of energy, light, and magnetism, and water. We're quite incredible, right? It completely fucks that up. It impairs the mitochondrial respiration, reduces ATP, reduces energy production, and increases oxidative stress. Now, you might be like, well, who cares about that? Energy is life. If you don't have energy, you can't repair yourself.
Yep.
You can't heal. You can't recover. Things start to degrade and fall apart. And that's how you get your disease states. So you get cellular energy deficits, accumulation of reactive oxygen species that cause disease, inflammation, cancer, and accelerated cell damage and aging. Right? Number three, it chelates essential minerals. So the glyphosate binds to minerals like zinc, magnesium, manganese, and iron, which makes them less available to the cells. So you get enzyme dysfunction, compromised antioxidant systems, decreased energy, and disrupted cellular metabolism. Number four, you've got inhibits cytochrome P450 enzymes. That's a very important part of detoxification in the liver, hormone synthesis, and vitamin D metabolism. So now you can't detox from toxins and drugs. You got hormonal imbalances. Maybe this whole trans thing is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, all these estrogens in the system, all that kind of hormone. Yep. So anyway, possible link to cancers. Number five, potential DNA and epigenetic effects. Some people suggest that actually causes DNA damage, alters gene expression, increased risk of mutation, chronic disease, and disruption in gene regulation over time. But, look, I'm just a stupid freaking conspiracy theorist, anti-vaxxer. Yeah. What do I know about safe and effective Roundup, right? Yeah. I know nothing. So anyway, carry on, mate. So they're spraying all this shit.
Well, let's talk about something else, because one of the things as I've been going around doing this tour and doing talks, one of the things what came to light was there was a guy called Hans Gunten, and he is just legend on soil. And I rang him and I said, Hans, I've got a question to ask you. I said, obviously as a farmer and a concerned citizen about what's been sprayed down above, one of the biggest things in there is aluminium. How do we as farmers deal with that? And he said, well, Mark, you've got two issues. One is, if you've got soil like you have in East Anglia, especially where it's very clayey, very thick, the aluminium falls on it and then sits there and can't do anything because the ground can't digest it.
Yeah.
I said, okay. He said, but on the positive side, you're an organic farmer. He said, so for you, the mycelium in the ground and the organic matter can digest the aluminium and then hold it in a format what the plant can then absorb. I said, oh, okay. So for me, it's not an issue. He said, not at all. He said, but it is going to be for the farmers that are sitting on standard soil. Now, for me, I was on my uncle's farm and we had the soil tested. And I, about £300, sent the soil samples off, all excited, out to Italy. And this was on uncle's field before I started farming it. They came back and said, it's got 5% life. I was like, 5%, what does that mean?
Doesn't sound like a lot.
No, it doesn't, does it? And I was like, and I've got a friend who had some soil tested, who's been an organic farmer for years, makes his own fertilizers, his own compost, and really understands soil. And his was at 70%. And I was like, how does that work then? How do I get as good as his? So, of course, I get talking, looking into it and starting to understand it. And then you understand how the glyphosate especially and the nitrogen has just fucked the ground right up to an unprecedented level that we're never going to be able to repair it. Now, cutting across...
No, don't say never.
Okay, well...
Hard work.
Hard work. But let's cut across to something else. I was in Derbyshire the other day, and they said, would you come and do a talk? And I said, yeah, go and do a talk. And the next day they said, would you come out and do a video about solar farming?
Oh, God.
And I'm like, Jesus, this is the one topic I have a massive pet hate towards.
Mate, you and me both, brother.
Why would you need to put solar farms on good quality agricultural land when there's all these buildings with nothing on the roof? To me, that doesn't stack up, okay?
No. Again, remember, retarded.
So I went out and they took me to the side of this road and they said, look, this, I kid you not, you never seen nothing like it. 160 acres of beautiful green Derbyshire pasture. Never seen nothing like it. I was like, wow. I just stood there looking down the valley thinking, what an amazing site. So where's the site going? They said, you're looking at it. That's all going to be solar farm. So I did the video, and the next day they put it out on social media. The next day the farmer puts out a video saying what a great thing it is that they're going to be bringing this to the table and that they're going to be doing this and it's going to secure his farm for the forthcoming generations. And it's like, now, I don't believe that at all. So when we were down, to tell you another story, just to see how these things fit together. When we were in Truro, we was down in Cornwall, and I've got this fascination. I need to go to Land's End and John O'Groats this year. Don't know why, but I've got to. I'm 57, never travelled, so let's do it. So we'd gone down to Land's End. On the way back through Truro, we got to meet this guy called James. And he's taking us around his regenerative farm. And I was really impressed with everything. And I said to him, James, I see you. Can't help but notice you've got a field over there full of solar panels. He said, oh, he said, luckily they're not mine. I said, luckily? He said, yeah. He said, well, they were supposed to be on that field over there. He said, 200 acres. He said, but the farmer next door needed to give access for the cables to come over his land. And he got a bit greedy and said to the electric company that rather than put them on his land, put them on mine. He said, then the company went bankrupt after they were installed. He's had the panels 2 years. He's never been paid a penny. The government doesn't want to do anything about it. The energy company doesn't know who they have to pay. So the energy company's getting free electricity, which is going into the grid. The farmer's got screwed. He's got 200 acres he now can't farm, can't claim any subsidies on because the company doesn't exist anymore. And this is what they do. So they go in, get a field right up, put the solar panels on it, and then you end up with a position that you don't get paid. Now, what happens in due course, right? What happens in due course is the farmer goes, I can't continue with no income. I'll have to sell the farm. So BlackRock comes along. BlackRock offers to pay a bit more for the farm. They buy the land up. And I guarantee you, in 20 years' time, they'll uninstall all these solar farms. And it then becomes brown belt land. So you've taken beautiful green pasture, turned it into brown belt, and in 20 years' time, they'll build industrial estates on all this. And they've ended up with land that they've bought for, let's say, £20,000 an acre, which is now going to be worth £400,000 an acre for building.
Wow.
That's what they're up to.
That is, and I've heard this before. Quick break. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the healthcare system? Are you unsure of who to consult, what questions to ask, or how to interpret tests and your diagnosis? Are you walking out of a consultation room with more questions than answers? After all, most consultations are 5 to 7 minutes, rushed, in and then out. With 25 years as a doctor, experience as a doctor and a surgeon, working in both the public and the private healthcare systems, I've got this unparalleled expertise. I really understand the nuts and bolts of the system, as well as what it truly means to be healthy. I've had the privilege of collaborating and learning from hundreds of leading health experts over the last 2 years. And through my own personal experience of turning around my own health, I've got a good idea of what it means to be healthy and what a real healthy lifestyle looks like. I'm deeply committed to medical ethics. I value informed consent, and I believe in protecting bodily autonomy. In today's world where trust in the healthcare system can feel elusive, you can count on me to always prioritize your best interests. So whether it's guidance or education or information you're looking for that's unbiased, no conflicts of interest, no financial gain to be got from me, from jabbing you or operating on you, if you just want a sounding board or a second opinion, then consider booking an online consultation with me. I'm not acting as a doctor to treat you or diagnose you, but I'm here as a health advocate and an educator to empower you with the knowledge to ask the right questions, to make the right decisions, and to show you the path to true health. So book an online consultation with me. Visit my website, docmalik.com/consultations. Thank you, folks. I've heard this before, and it's not just that, mate. It's that, and that's very powerful what you've told me. But also the fact is, you know, I've seen these solar panel farms, and I've stopped the car and pulled over and I'm disgusted by it. You know, it's a desert. It's a desert. They're spraying the weed killer underneath. They don't want any vegetation growing. You got the electric field that's being generated is toxic for insects and life. There's no biodiversity. There's no butterflies. There's no ladybirds. There's no birds. There's no rabbits. There's no nothing. And it's like all these green environmentalists, where are they? Like, again, retarded. They don't think. They don't think. They just go, oh, yeah, you know, I love the planet. Really? You love the planet? And like, where are all the plants? Where are all the animals? Where are all the insects? You know, there used to be a time when we used to drive down from Glasgow down to London and the car would be splattered with bugs. Mate, we go to Cornwall now regularly because my in-laws are there. There's no bugs. I get out and look and I'm in shock. Like, we're killing life with all these spraying and the solar panel fields and the electric fields that we're creating, the non-native EMF and the wind turbines, what they do to the birds and everything. And where are the environmentalists? I'm an environmentalist, by the way.
Me too. And I genuinely believe that. Now, two things on what you just said. So, one, as we... Let me just backtrack on something. And it's important I cover this, only for the fun factor that people know this. And obviously, I'm not going to say that people should do this. This is a terrible thing if it should ever happen. But if you were to be on a solar farm in the future, the panels are in blocks of 6, and they're wired that if one panel gets broken, for instance, the 6 don't work. So if you really want to go and cause some carnage around someone like that, not that I obviously agree with doing something like that, but if people wanted to, Jesus, you could have some fun. Now, secondly, what I was saying, I did a video one day about the lack of bees.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this, and my beekeeper rang me and he said, like, Mark, he said, are you off your trolley? And I said, well, no. I said, there's no bees. He said, there's loads of bees. And I said, Zach, I assure you there's no bees. He said, I can assure you there's loads. He said, honey production's up 60% this year. And I said, but Zach, I haven't seen a bee for months. He said, just because you haven't seen them doesn't mean they're not there. So he went on to tell me, and he said, look, he said, near your farm is a 300-acre field of pretty flowers, which has been put down for set aside. I said, right.
Put down for what?
Set aside.
Set aside.
So it's this beautiful thing we have where the farmers get paid £300 an acre to produce nothing. And I'll backtrack on something else, but we'll end up back where we should be.
Okay.
So my uncle, whose farm I was on, if they produce wheat comes in at earning £40 per tonne after they've paid for the chemicals, the sprays, the nitrogen, the seed, the time, the fuel, everything else. They get £40 a tonne.
That's not very much.
Well, it's not. And you only get...
how much do you get out of an acre?
4.2 tonne. So they get about £170 a tonne after they've done everything, right? So my uncle says to me, when I start growing vegetables, he says, that ain't going to work. So anyway, I'm an organic grower. I get the soil good again. We get it all going well. And I show him the books at the end of the year, and I was like, well, we've earned £28,000 off an acre of land, and you've earned 170.
Wow.
Do you not see there's something wrong with how you farm?
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, I digress. So back to the bees. Now, the bees, so I was adamant, no bees. So he said, come with me and we'll go and walk across this field. Now, all of his hives are on the side of this field. So you've heard the thing called the beeline.
Yes.
So beeline is what happens when the first scout bee comes out of the hive and it goes to try and find food. So if it can't find any, they send out a second one and a third one, and they take different beelines. So, but where they've got it, the first bee out of the hive goes about 100 yards, and there's Christmas Day laid out on a platter. Right? So he runs back to the hive and he says, listen, guys, no need to panic. It's like bloody Christmas Day out here. There's so much food, we don't know what to do. So no panic on, right? So the bees spend all summer gathering the nectar, and they go and they fill up the hives, and the hives are doing really nicely. They don't need to come to your garden for you to see anymore, because they've got so much food where they are. They don't go and do what we need them to do, which is go and pollinate our gardens and be looking for the blackberries and the stinging nettle flowers and everything else. So the bees are still there. The insects are still there. They just don't come and worry us anymore, because there's so much food where they are on these set-aside fields. Now, we drove down from Derbyshire to Bedford the other day, and I said to Gloria, I said, look, we've travelled right down to Land's End. We've travelled right up to Burnley, back to Derbyshire. How many insects on the screen? She said, none. I said, we've driven from Derbyshire to Bedford, and look at the front of the van. The van just looked like someone chucked a pepper pot over it.
Really?
Thousands upon thousands of flies on it. And I was like, how?
Yeah.
Well, then I said to her, I said, as we drove back up that way 2 weeks later, I said, look at all these fields. And it was all fields of set-aside where obviously all the insects are quite happy. They don't need to travel anywhere else. So you get these pockets now in the country where they're spraying shite everywhere, insecticides and, weed killers and all sorts, which is killing all the insects off. Then you have these little areas.
Little oases.
Yeah, where they've got all these little insects and bees buzzing away. The WEF, and I'm a big fan of this, as you can imagine. Your face is a picture.
Yeah, but listen, people who know me know I do not have a poker face. My face was like,
where's he going?
My face was like, what?
So I'm not a big fan of theirs, I have to say.
Good.
But they've been really clever and really devious. So they've convinced people there's no bees. They've convinced people there's no insects, and people have just gone, yeah, there isn't. There is loads. They're just in the wrong place. So they've created these as oases, like you say, for them to live in, and then they've sprayed everywhere else so there's none at all. And the none at all is where we all live. So we all go, there's no birds in the garden. Well, no, because the birds have all moved with the bloody insects. They've all followed the food, right? So on the farm where we were, Uncle had started putting ponds and lakes and different things back in. Wildlife came back because the Environment Agency keeps saying, you don't need any of this anymore. You need to get rid of this. You can't dredge your rivers anymore, because you'll upset the water voles or whatever, whatever nonsense it might be. But really what you've got going on is they're trying to deliberately dampen down the amount of environment birds and insects have to go on, and then create it somewhere else, so it's still there, but we don't see it. We assume there's an issue. But
it will still be less. I mean, I can't imagine. So what I'm trying to say is the whole country should be an oasis.
100%.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole country should be an oasis. If we truly live in partnership with the land and with nature, there should be regenerative farming everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything should be on pasture. There should be rotational crops. Like every farm should have donkeys, cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, goats, and that's like little small holdings everywhere, rather than these big monolithic,
100%
industrial scale farming, which is soulless, which is corporate, which is raping the land. I mean, what freaks me out is the soil degradation. All life on this planet, including in the sea, 2/3, 3/4 or whatever, the surface, which is water, all life, even in the seas, depends on like a foot deep of soil. And when you just talk about how it's like 5% alive organic, you're like, our soil's a desert. And if we don't take care of it, we're consigned to Mars and Venus.
Well,
it's scary, dude.
Or did we come from there and we've already that up? That's a whole different story. Now, one thing I did look at,
but it's terrifying.
Last year I got into electroculture,
Yeah, explain that to me.
So this is where you can bring the energy from the atmosphere, the ether energy, which was took off the periodic table, and you use it to help produce food.
So hold on a sec. What do you mean by taking off the periodic table?
So ether, as the energy of life from the atmosphere, used to physically be on the periodic table.
Really?
Yeah, and it was removed. About 18 something, it was removed. So they removed it so we didn't understand it anymore. And I got set up by chance. I did a video and I just said that I'd put some electroculture on the farm when we were doing this. And a guy messaged me via YouTube and said, I've got something you'd like. So I just didn't say anything, just sent him my email address. And the guy sent me 9 books, PDF books, that were written over 100 years ago about electroculture. And I've got some friends who are heavily into it. And I said, look, I've got these books. They show you how to make it and everything else. These guys ran with it. Now, in 1920, the guy who designed the original electroculture aerials and things had sold 1.2 million of these kits worldwide.
Electroculture.
Yeah. So here's the concept. So you put up an antenna at about 6.2 meters tall.
Okay. So not that tall.
No. And it plugs in to the energy in the atmosphere and it brings it down the aerial, and we run cables through the ground running north to south, and it gives a tiny, tiny little piece of energy. So, and you're only talking about 0.5 of a volt.
DC?
I don't know the answer to that.
Must be DC. AC is artificial, DC is natural.
DC, yeah. So, and what it does, it's all about having a little bit of energy for a long period of time. So what the government did to prove it didn't work was put 10,000 volts into the ground and said nothing grew.
Yeah, they fried it.
Yeah, right. So, but we started trialling this and playing with it. And just to give you an idea of how serious it is and how worried they are about it, we installed an aerial 6.2 meters tall. 10 minutes after it was installed, we had a Black Hawk helicopter circling the farm.
Wow.
And everyone was like, and all the guys who were installing it are like, that is a Black Hawk helicopter in it. Yeah, and it was circling around, the camera hanging out the side, filming what we were doing.
You must have done something like to the field or something. They must have picked up on something.
They must have done. Now, I don't know how they do that. I don't know. But we never had, anyone come and ask any questions about it, but we'd obviously installed it. Now, we also installed a thing called power towers, and power towers are like a massive battery pack. So if you can imagine a chimney pot, right? This is what they were, clay chimney pots, sunk into the ground about 9 inches deep with granular basalt in them. So, and it's granular magnetic basalt. So it gets the energy from the atmosphere and stores it like a battery pack. And then as the plants need it, the plants then draw the energy. Now, I witnessed something. Now, bear in mind, as a farmer, as an agriculturalist, qualified horticulturalist, what I witnessed went against everything I knew and believed. So just to give you an idea of the madness of this, I had to put one of these power towers next to a row of strawberries, okay? And the strawberries were on top of bales in compost bags, just chucked on, and I've got rows of them. And January, I think it was about 7th of January, I went up there and...
Strawberry season.
Strawberry season, yeah, main strawberry season, when they're normally died off, they're all brown and they come back in the spring. Now, you and I were taught in the spring, the weather starts to get warmer and it brings life to the planet. Fair? That's how we understand it. Yeah? So,
it's not true, though.
No, it's not true. So when I installed these power towers, I went up there in January, about 7th of January. It was a thick frost and we'd had some snow overnight, right? And I went up and I brushed the strawberry plants, and I've got the pictures, I'll show you this before I go. Brushed off the strawberry plants, and there was the strawberry plants on flower, massive, and they were bigger than my bowler hat. The strawberry plants were like this.
I want to show you something. So one day I'm going to get a screen up here that I can share, but right now I haven't got to that point yet. But if you look at this, grows huge crops with aid of electricity. And there's a picture of an old man. I'm sharing this so people can see it as well. And it's coils, and they get transferring the electrons. So basically, what I've come to understand as a mitochondriac, and I definitely recommend people get this book. Let me just show people. It's the mitochondriac manifesto. I've actually had Randy Lee on my podcast. He's amazing. He talks about how even you and I, most of our food energy doesn't come from food.
No.
Do you know we can convert the energy from the sun via our skin, and if you walk barefoot on the ground, grounding, you get free electrons from the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
And there's people out there who believe that, who actually even practice, all you need to do is breathe, be in sunlight, walk barefoot, and have one meal a week.
Airfarians.
Yeah,
I think
that's
what
it.
they are.
Yeah. Breatharians or airfarians or whatever, where they just believe that all you need to do is breathe, have a little bit of food once a week, and that's enough. And they sustain themselves.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not advocating that, but the reality is, one of the reasons why people eat so much is because they're not getting the sunlight, and because they're not grounding.
Yep.
You know, we've lost this contact with the soil.
Absolutely.
I saw this Instagram reel recently, and there's this guy literally rolling around in the soil half naked and telling people how wonderful and beautiful soil was. And I loved it. It's a bit extreme, but he's correct. Like, we need to get our hands dirty. We need to get into the soil. And, you know, I remember when I went to Tanzania for my elective way back in like 1997, all these little kids were running barefoot and they looked so healthy. They had bright eyes, straight white teeth, you know, running around, you know, in the dirt. They looked fantastic. They looked like ultimate health. And now you look out here at school drop-off, and the kids are all on their laptops and iPads and phones.
Eyes are sunk.
Eyes are sunk. They've got no imagination. They're walking a bit funny. They've all got like tantrums. They've all got speech problems. They're all eating junk food, and you're like, we've messed up.
Oh yeah, big time.
So I totally believe this electroculture, because what you're doing is just capturing those electrons and feeding energy into the plants. And also, I think it might be an element of the magnetism. Now, you said you were going north to south.
Yeah.
One of the things, again, Randy talks about is the importance of magnetism. So the Earth's magnetic field is measured in Gauss.
Yep.
Do you know at the time of the dinosaurs, it measured something like 250, 300?
Right.
Do you know what it measures now?
No.
About 0.5.
Wow.
And he says, and magnetism, like if you go into a room where there's no magnetism, in 2 days you're dead. You cannot survive without magnetism. The magnetism aids the energy delivery and performance in the cells. And one of the things that people like Jack Kruse and Randy Lee talk about is they think that the Earth's magnetism was so strong at the time of the dinosaurs, that's why they were so big. And it wasn't just the dinosaurs, it was all the plants and insects. Absolutely. Everything was big.
Yeah.
And even during the era of the Babylonians, like 2500 BC, it was like 2.5 Gauss.
Yep.
We're now at 0.5. Some places 0.2. The Earth's magnetic field is diminishing. And I think with that, our minds and capabilities, which is why we're all retarded, which is why normal people can't see the truth anymore. It's crazy. But magnetism is huge. So I wonder how much of that electroculture is actually creating a magnetic field as well.
I definitely think it is. And there's so much to it. And
much to it.
I have to say, why I dabbled with it, and the guys who came in and installed it, Andy and Francesco, are fantastic and so knowledgeable. They said to me, look, the only reason we can install this here from an electroculture point of view is because you've done so much good work with the soil. So you've got the bio back in the soil. You've got your selenium starting to grow again. You've got, you've put the protein back. You've put the vitamins and the minerals and everything back in the soil. Now we can start to build that energy and multiply it by 100 times. We grew vegetables. I kid you not. We grew vegetables, which were insane. So I've got a volunteer, Poppy, working for me, 16 years old. This girl, what she doesn't know about growing stuff's insane, right? And her and Gloria, I've got a load of garlic bulbs, what we're shooting, and I said to the girls, look, and we grow on ridges, and with the cables running through them, and all the basalts and so forth. And so the electric's flowing through these beds. And I said to them, look, I've got these garlic bulbs, they're starting to shoot, we need to get them in the ground. So the girls just put them in about 3 inches deep. 3 days later, they're out of the ground. And out of the ground by another 3 inches. So they've grown 6 inches in 3 days. And I was like, I said to the girls, I said, look, you'll have to get some more compost, cover them up, so they're going to bolt. So the girls cover them up, and I said, I thought no more of it. I see them working. I come along in it 3 days later, and I was like, well, I know I witnessed them do it, but perhaps they forgot. So I said to the girls the next day, I said, girls, can you? They said, we've done it. I said, well, look, the garlic's out of the ground, fucking another 6 inches. So it was like, it's going to bolt. So we covered it up again, and it eventually slowed down. However, we pulled it the other day. Now, I'm a believer that if you grow vegetables, especially hydroponically, you get a shit product because it tastes like the water. There's no goodness in it.
No.
If you grow in really good, densely nutritious soil,
black soil,
you get a really good product, what you can eat, right? And you taste it and you go, wow.
Yeah.
Now, that's where we are now with the electroculture. So, and it puts the energy into the vegetables. Now, when you eat it, if you're in a position that, and most people probably watch your show will know and understand this, but the reason we are programmed to think we need 3 meals a day is because food's shit, and we have to have 3 meals a day to fill us up. But when I talk to my, when my granddad was alive, when I was a kid, and he would say, we would have 1 meal a day. We'd get up in the morning, we'd have a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Mate, I have 1 meal a day.
Well, I do now, but only since I've really got to understand good quality food.
100%.
But when we were kids, and with no disrespect to my mum and dad, we got up in the morning, we had breakfast.
Yeah, mate.
We'd come home, we'd have dinner.
Yeah.
We'd have tea. We'd always have something before we went to bed. And I don't think we realised in the 50 years, for me, 57, in the last 50 years, it had already got bad enough how little nutrition was in food. Now it's desecrated. And what I love, and I don't go into supermarkets very often, but what I do love is when you go into a supermarket, they've got this one aisle, right? What's called the healthy food section. And I find that hilarious because you've got this one aisle and about 2/3 of the stuff in it's processed. It's like, if this is the healthy food section, what's the rest of the shit in the shop?
Bingo. Amen. Amen. You're talking about 100%, mate. I agree with you. All I can say is, can you please sell some of your produce to Nat Organity? I get my food from her and Lou. And so, make a deal and ship over some of your food there because, I'm tired of the fact that I have to go somewhere abroad to taste a real tomato. And you know what it's like when you've been somewhere in the Mediterranean, some island, and you're like, oh, God, the salad is great. Like, I don't eat salads at home because it tastes water. Like, what's the point? And I 100% agree with what you're saying about the food. Like, I do 1 meal a day, but I get all my food from Jonathan Chapman, who's got a regenerative pasture farm. It's all pasture raised, chickens, eggs, beef, venison is wild, everything. And, it's very heavy in animal fat and protein. Yeah. That's been pasture raised. And that meal that I have keeps me happy. It keeps me going. I don't feel the urge to crave and have carbohydrates or anything. It doesn't happen. But like you're talking about the soil and the mycelial network. I mean, that's a living organism. And we don't really appreciate how living it is and how intricate and how intelligent it is. It goes out and draws nutrients from one place and takes away the toxins. And and it stretches out miles and miles. Yep. It's an organism that we don't really appreciate or understand. It's like whales and dolphins in the sea. We don't understand the beauty of this in the soil. And but then extrapolating that further, like all plants are living organisms, all plants. Some people say they even sense feelings, and if you talk horribly to them, they don't do that well. But if you talk beautifully to them and encouraging, so they respond to that. So where I'm coming at, long-winded, is, but people who are vegetarian, vegan, they go, oh, I don't know, I'm not eating meat, not killing an animal. I'm like, plants are animal, plants are living.
Absolutely.
Like, why are you treating a plant any different from a cow?
Yeah.
Like, it's a living being and an organism. Just because it can't run away from you.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it can't run away from you. And you think, oh yeah, I'm going to eat plants. I've got a plant-based diet. You're still murdering life. So, like, don't get on this high almighty stance of, I would never eat an animal and that's just horrible and that's just evil. Well, killing any life then is evil. You should just have supplements and pure protein and pure fat and whatever. Like, go the full way. Yeah. Don't give me this BS, because also a lot of these vegan practices are promoting monocultures, which are raping the soil, destroying the mycelial network, reducing biodiversity. And if we're not eating beef and cattle, there's not going to be any.
No.
Like you're decimating millions and millions of animals that will no longer be alive.
Yep.
So indirectly, you are still killing them. So what I'm just trying to say is, it's all hypocritical, retarded bullshit.
All of it. I'll tell you something. So a couple of months ago, my dad was really, really poorly. And I mean really poorly. And I happened to say to my mum, who's now starting to wake up to a few things, including chemtrails and different things. And I've been on at her about the jabs, and they'd queued up for about 27 jabs each, despite how much her son cried at her feet, and she was having none of it. Anyway, my dad was really poorly and had a fall, went into hospital, came home, and I thought, if my dad's here in a month's time, I'm going to be surprised. Now, bear in mind, he's 84 at that point. And I said to my mum, what medication's Dad on? And she was going through, he's on this and this and this and this. One of the things he was on was statins.
Oh, God.
So I said to my mum, look, Mum, I said, these things are really dangerous. They deplete every piece of goodness out of your body, Mum. So I happened to speak to a friend of mine, Kirsty. She works in a pharmacist, and she said to me, look, I can't advise you what to do, but I could guide you in the right direction. So I said to my mum, look, I'm getting really, really concerned about this. Would you have a word with Dad's doctor? And fortunately enough, the next day she was going to see the doctor with Dad. So she says to the doctor, my son's really concerned about my husband being on statins. The doctor says, rightly so. So my mum's like, sorry. He said, yeah, rightly so. You should take him off of them. And that's all the doctor said. So Dad at that point has accepted. It's been tapped into his head. I've got to come off the statins.
By authority.
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 So I phoned my friend and I said, look, they've agreed to take him off statins, but is there anything I need to know? She went, oh, Christ, yeah. She said, how poorly do you think your dad is? I said, if he's here in a week's time, I'm going to be surprised. He's just withering away. She said, right, get your dad on as much animal fat as you can. As she said, no, I mean, thick pork chops, get him eating lard, whatever butter you can get him, full cream milk, the whole works. So piled it on. And I bought some, she said, get him some of these little bio drinks, for building your gut bio up. So, and I got him and he said, I ain't drinking them, they're horrible. And I said, all right. So I opened one, drunk it in front of him, put one next to him and said, why don't you just drink that bloody thing, Well, then he got quite into them. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, he drank loads of them. But what I was going to say is, from day 1 to day 7, I watched my dad absolutely, when they took the tablets away from him, disappear inside himself. He got iller and iller and iller. His body was just eating him away. You could see it. And I got there on day 7, on the night of day 6, and I thought to myself, my dad's not going to be alive tomorrow. The next morning I got there, and I had to smile because I walked in the door and I was like, hey, Dad, how you doing? And he went, oh, he said, I'm all right. And he sat there with a notepad and a pen. And I said, what are you up to? He said, I'm writing your mum a poem. And I said, bear in mind, my dad's a mechanical engineer by profession, one of the most clever guys. I've never seen anything the guy couldn't mend. Whether it was made of wood, metal, anything, there's nothing he couldn't do. And he said, I feel like I've been drugged. I said, well, Dad, you have. And as he got better and better and better, he's put his body weight back on. He's clear thinking now. He's, when I went round after 2 weeks of him being took off a tablet, he's out in the garden having a tidy up around the back of the garage, and it was like a bomb site. And there he is clambering about on everything to sort things out. I said, Dad, what are you doing? I'll do that. He said, do you think I can't do it? This is a guy who a week before sat in a chair and I thought he'll be dead within a few days. It's this evil.
It's evil. So I'm going to tell you a little bit. It's complete evil. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of the science behind it. So statins, right? What they do is they block a certain pathway, right? And that pathway isn't just cholesterol that it impacts. See, that's what people don't understand. They think it's just cholesterol, right? It actually blocks HMG-CoA reductase, right? So imagine upstream, right? You got stream, and the stream branches into 3, right? You're not, and one of the 3 branches of the stream is leading to cholesterol, right? Now, just say for argument's sake, cholesterol's bad, which it isn't, by the way. But just say you accept that it's bad, right? So instead of blocking that one branch of the river, you block the whole river, So all 3 tributaries are now blocked. And so what you're blocking is ubiquinone, right? And that ubiquinone, it's because it's everywhere, right? It's the energy synthesis antioxidant. So you're getting rid of that, right? You're getting rid of dolichol, which is really important for protein synthesis and brain function. So you got rid of that. And then you got cholesterol, which you've also wiped out. And the cholesterol is important for cell membranes, steroid synthesis, sex hormones, and neurotransmitters. So what that means is, cholesterol is not just like it's good if you have it. It's absolutely necessary for life, healthy vitality and living, fundamental to multiple biological functions. It builds your cell membranes, right? The bricks of your house. Imagine the bricks of the house just dissolve. You ain't got a house, mate.
Yep.
Right? It's crucial for brain function. 2% of your brain is 2% of your body weight. And of that brain, 20 to 25% of it is cholesterol. So you need it for synapse formation where the nerves join together, nerve signaling, cognitive function. Guess what? You get rid of the cholesterol, you get your depression, anxiety, suicide risk, low cognition, Alzheimer's, you name it. It produces vital hormones like cortisol, which people think it's a bad thing, but it's a good thing. You need it in the morning to kickstart you and get the metabolism going. You need it for estrogen and testosterone, sexual function and development, progesterone, reproductive health, aldosterone, blood pressure regulation. It's required for vitamin D synthesis. It helps digest the fats and absorbs the fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. But you know what? Cholesterol's bad, mate. And statins are safe and effective. Like I said, my favorite word of this podcast, retarded.
Yep.
Folks, there's one lucky spot left for my summer retreat in a month's time. There's going to be an amazing lineup of guests, speakers, therapists, including moi. So if you want to spend an amazing weekend with myself and like-minded individuals, people like Sarah Jane Golding and Nikita Stark, then come and join us. 27th to 29th of June. Details are on my website, docmalik.com. See if you can bag that last lucky spot.
But you have to ask the question, don't you? So if you take someone like my dad, and my dad worked for the authorities his whole life, worked for the government, for the council, and he's a systems man. And if the system says to do something, he says, how high would you like me to jump? And I don't mean that of any disrespect to my dad. He's been programmed his entire working life to follow a system. And he used to get frustrated with me because I was always the wild child. I wanted to do my own thing. I was a farmer and a greengrocer, which he absolutely was vigorously vicious towards me about. Can't you just get a proper job with the council? No, I don't really fit into that, Dad. But you see how easy it is for them to fuck people over.
Yeah.
And really fuck them over. And I think the thing for me in all of this, in this great awakening, I got shown the 2030 agenda when I was just 21 years old.
Wow.
And a friend of mine come to see me.
That long ago?
Yeah.
Was it even out then?
Yeah. So what happened was a friend of mine come to see me, this guy called Dennis Abbott. And Dennis was, if you saw him walking the streets, you'd go, he's a wrong one. Look at him. He was scruffy. He was always just looked like and I don't mean this disrespectfully to Dennis. He's awesome. And if he's listening to Dennis, I'm sorry of what I'm about to say, but he looked like a tramp, right? He used to deliver flyers for me. And he was always like, Mark, I need to have a word. I said, what's up, Dennis? He says, Dennis had made the decision he was never going to have kids, but was very conscious that at that age I'd then married someone who had 2 kids and had got another daughter of my own. And he said to me, you need to know this. He said, you're in the food industry and the farming side. He said, you need to know what's going on. And when he said about the 2030 agenda, it took a whole year. I ignored him on it. I was like, oh, bless him. Bear in mind, this is before the internet, so you couldn't really research things either. There's no mobile phones. And he kept on and on and on. And then I remember I had access to a computer one day and I did some research on this and I thought, this thing's real. And when I looked into it, I was like, one of the big things what stuck out for me in the 2030 agenda was how we're going to depopulate the planet. Mm. And when you looked into that, food was a big part of that. And for me, I'm looking at it going, you're never going to stop farmers producing food. That's what farmers want to do. We're here on the planet to produce this great stuff what people live on. And then you see 30 years down the road what they start doing and how they're paying farmers to grow pretty flowers. Or, I mean, there's one scheme at the minute. If a farmer is getting old and wants to retire, if they sell the farm, they can get a £300,000 payment for a get out of farming payment. So it's like a pension in one lump sum, providing you come out of the industry.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So you're incentivizing people to leave?
Yeah, £300,000. So, and I spoke to a farmer and I said, "You're not going to take that?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "But you've got a son who wants to take over the farm." He said, "Mark, listen to me." He said, "You've got to understand this." He said, "I'm a 7th generation farmer." He said, "My son will lose the farm one way or another in his lifetime. He'll lose it. Either the government will take it from him, they'll force compulsory purchase on it, or they'll back him into a corner that when he dies, his kids lose the farm paying the inheritance tax."
Do you know what this reminds me of? It's evil, what you've just described. But it's like what they did to the crofters in Scotland.
That's exactly what they did.
And to the Irish.
Yeah.
They're just kicking them off the land.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? And you know what? Can I just say something? On that note, part of me is sympathetic towards the farmer's plight, but part of me is like, a lot of farmers, I would say most farmers, aren't awake.
No.
And they don't deserve sympathy because they're like we need to save the planet and the green agenda and we're voting Liberal Democrat and blah, blah, blah. And they're so indoctrinated themselves. Like, they're also taking the waste, the human waste, and spraying it on the fields.
Yeah.
This human garbage, which is contaminated with heavy metals, estrogen. You know, that's a huge thing that no one's talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, the wastewater companies aren't treating it themselves. So they're like, "Oh, you know what? Do you want to take this stuff?" And I don't know how much they pay, £300, whatever. Yeah. And the people are just taking it and going, "Yeah, all right, okay," spraying it on the land, not thinking twice, not thinking about their role to be a caretaker. So what I'm trying to say is, like, I find that farmers are very much like my former profession, doctors. Many of them are very good people, very nice people, well-intentioned, but totally indoctrinated. Yeah. And instead of realizing and going, right, we're 7th generation farmer, caretakers of this land, producing food for the nation, take care of the soil. Are we doing the right thing? We're raping the land. The soil is dead. We're pumping all this garbage on it. Let's look into it. Let's think for a second. They're just blindly going along. All right, human waste that we're going to spray that smells disgusting, full of crap, literally. We're going to spray that on our fields. They're not thinking. They're not connected. Oh, you know what? I'll put a solar panel field. I'll make some money from that. You know, I'm just saying they're not thinking. They're not. There's a dereliction of duty, just like the doctors aren't healers anymore. The doctors aren't taking care of their patients anymore. They're just following tick box exercise, protocol driven, totally blinded, totally indoctrinated. I don't have any sympathy for the doctors anymore. Like, there's no real excuse. Like, wake the F up, right? But, otherwise, you dig your own grave, you climb into it, and then when people like you and I tell our profession, "Hey guys, you've dug yourself into a grave," they just turn around and mock us. And then, so when the soil covers them up, you kind of go, well, you kind of asked for this. Do you see what I mean?
It's a bit like boiling a frog, isn't it?
So maybe, as well as just trying to educate people on this tour, really the farmers need to be educated as well.
Yeah. Now, there's an issue.
Okay.
6 months ago, I got asked by a friend to join the Farmers to Action group. And I posted a picture in the WhatsApp group of chemtrails. Oh my God, did I get my arse read to me?
Oh, this is what I mean.
But what I will say is, a few days ago, obviously it came out into mainstream media that the government had actually announced that, despite us lot knowing it for 10 years, what's been going on, that they are in the position that they're going to now admit they're blocking out the sun, right? So I posted a picture of chemtrails. Same picture I posted 6 months before, and just said, I posted this 6 months ago and was absolutely fecking slaughtered on this channel. What's your thoughts now? there must have been 250 farmers what put pictures up of their sky that day.
Wow.
Farmers are waking up.
I really hope so.
Right? Now, here's the problem. I go out and do talks. I do a talk. We was in Wendover last night, just down the road. 100 people, thereabouts in the room. 2 farmers. And I made a point, like I always do. I say at the beginning, look, if you're a farmer in the room, I'm likely to say a few things what going to piss you off. Don't get the rope out ready to hang me until we get to the end of the meeting, because by the time I get to the end, we'll go full circle and you'll understand where I'm coming from. And there was this lovely couple sat in the audience, a husband and wife, and the husband said, his wife put her hand up and said, well, whilst I agree with what you're saying, rah, 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 rah. And I said, look, I understand what you're saying, but the reason farmers react like that is because they're absolutely terrified of where their industry's heading, right? And the people in the system that have let them down. So I'll give you a classic example. I booked a bus to go to the very first talk in London about for farming side, and big demonstration, tens of thousands of people. We all hoarded into this tiny little area. Met police everywhere. No one's mobile phone would work because they've got scramblers on. And I got there, took a whole coach load of people down. Me and Gloria, we're going to fucking fight the system. Got down there, and they had the stage all set up. We all crammed into this tiny little area. The first person comes on and speaks. NFU. For the National Farmers Union. For anyone that understands what the NFU stands for no fucking use. Because that's what they are.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there they are. They stand up and do this speech about how they're supporting the farmers. You lot are bought and paid for.
Absolutely.
Like
the BMA, like all the other unions.
Yeah, well, the lady who used to be in charge of the NFU always used to wear her Davos badge.
Oh, my God.
You've only got to look at this. Once you understand, I think it's when you know, don't you?
You know.
So there we are. And then they got the Conservative MP up to stand. This Conservative guy stands up and he says, when we get back in power, what we're going to do is this. You fuckers were in power for 10 years and did nothing to support the farmers. Then the Liberal Democrat stands up and says, well, what we're going to do is this. And then someone else stands up and says, the Labour Party says, give us a chance. We've only just got in, it's because of the Conservatives we've got. Right.
They're all pointing fingers at each other.
Nigel Farage, now, as much as I think Nigel's a twat, right? And I've witnessed things in the past 6 months since interacting with the Reform Party, right, of horrendous things. Right?
Listen, I was in the Brexit Party.
Yep.
I've been on his show twice.
Yep.
I know that they're not good people.
No, 100%.
There is a complete effing con.
Yeah,
good people are voting for them.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, we're getting a freedom, we're getting alternative. There is establishment as you can fracking get, and they are just literally leading you down a dead end.
Yeah.
They're scum. The whole political landscape, they're all scum.
Yep.
Don't trust any politician.
No.
And just because they say some things that you want to hear, the immigrants in the hostels and the hotels, not good.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're your friends.
No.
Right? But people fall for it.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's talking about them. Great. But they're still marching to the WEF agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't think they're not. And it's interesting because when Trump got into power, I think a lot of people thought, this is going to change the world. The problem I have with it is, if you look, right, at what Trump's done since he got in and with Elon Musk's additional help on the side, they've cut out a massive amount of funding. And they've said, this is what it was going to, and everyone's going, that's terrible. We can't have that money going there, rah, rah, rah. Right.
Dude, yes and no.
Right.
That funding sounds like a massive amount. When you look at the full budget, it's like 0.001%.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it in context because people are doing exactly what you're saying. Oh my God, they've cut so much and they've exposed all the crap that's going on. Yeah, you know what? They've saved like a couple of $100 million.
Yeah.
But like the $30 trillion is still... Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all sleight of hand. Look here. Yeah. Don't look there.
Shaky, shiny. And I think what's also happened is that people have fallen for that, right? But we've also got the other side. He went straight into power and said, right, from day one, we're going to, anyone who wasn't working in the government, if you've been working from home for 3 years, take the money, you're not coming back. right? So what they've actually started doing is pulling to bits the entire American system on camera for the public to watch, telling them they're doing the right thing. So, and I see this now, obviously, we spoke about earlier, Gloria, my partner, she's Nigerian. And what's happening in Nigeria at the moment in the farming side is exactly what's happening in here. It's just been delivered in a slightly different way. I've got friends in Australia, New Zealand, America, all in farming. They all say the same thing. Everywhere worldwide, the farming has been desecrated to its knees and it's been delivered differently. So in Nigeria, what they're doing is in the north of the country, they have lots of Muslims. In the south, they have lots of Christians. So what they've done is given the farmers in the north who produce a lot of cattle the right to roam their cattle anywhere. Now, in the south, the Christians produce a lot of vegetables. So they're given the guys in the north permission to graze their animals anywhere. So they go down south, drive them right through all the vegetable growing land. They eat all the vegetables. The farmers get kicking off against each other, shoot each other, kill each other, burn each other's houses down, whatever else. And they've had this massive problem of losing all the farmers. Now, on top of that, the people who run away are then too scared to come back. They daren't admit they're a farmer. Bill Gates, you know what? Bill Gates, you've got to love Billy Boy. It's just the gift what keeps giving, isn't it? And in Nigeria, what he did was he paid farmers in the north to go down south, and if they could take away farmers' seeds, they would pay them to take them away, right? And they made it law in Nigeria that if you were a farmer, you had to give up your seed. And then you could come back like we do in this country. No one keeps seed anymore. So we go to the seed company and we say, please, sir, can we have some more? And the seed company says, well, you've been a good boy. You've grown what we needed you to. Please have some more seed. Don't do anything you shouldn't. Otherwise, we won't give you any seed.
Oh, my God.
So that's how we've gone over the last 50 years. When in Nigeria now, they've got to the point, they've gone from overproducing. They used to produce so much food in Nigeria. Only 2 years ago, they exported 90% of their food. Now, 2 years later, with Bill Gates as infiltration of what's gone on, they don't have enough food in the country to feed the country. So they're now importing food. The problem is for them to import it, it comes in from countries less fortunate than them. So someone further down the line gets fucked over because they're now having to give up their food to send it to Nigeria. And Nigeria is still sending their food to England. And it's like, who writes this crap?
I've come to the conclusion it's not Bill Gates. Bill Gates is just a front man. He's a made man like Elon Musk, like Trump. Trump is beholden to his Zionist billionaires. You know, he was out of pocket by $1 billion. He was bailed out by these Zionist people, and Sheldon Adelson, or whatever, I don't know if the name's correct or not. Big Zionist, ultra Zionist, and that $1 billion doesn't come without strings attached.
Of course it doesn't.
It's like, you're going to do what we tell you to do. And they pivot these politicians or whatever to say what you want to say. They push people as far as they can to the left, then they lurch them to the right, then they lurch them to the left. But guess what? Like a boat tacking in the wind, it still goes straight.
Yeah.
Right? And all these people like Elon Musk and your mate Billy, they can't be everywhere all the time, coming up with vaccines, coming up with this, the crops, the land. They are front men for the bankers and the intelligence apparatus. They're being told, they themselves are working for other people.
Yeah.
And there's an agenda. There's an agenda to stop good, wholesome food. I think the first thing they did was a long time ago was to stop people from being self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So people had land, gardens, were growing food. They didn't want any of that. They didn't want farms doing that either. And now we're all dependent on the supermarkets. Now they're even going to destroy the food system. So now it's going to be grown in vats and God knows what. It's all going to be gloop and junk and laced with chemicals that will make it taste delicious. So that, just like now, parents at the school gate are like, oh, son, do you want to go to McDonald's for a treat?
Oh, yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, that's like me saying, oh, son, do you want to go to McDonald's for a little bit of poison?
Yeah.
Just because it tastes nice doesn't mean it's good for you. It's toxic. Like you leave a burger on any burger on a counter, it doesn't rot.
It'll be there in a year's time.
Even the bacteria and the mold don't want to eat it because it's plastic and not alive. It's dead. Like Only things that are alive rot. Okay? And, we've already convinced society to take in toxins and poisons as if it's normal. It won't be one step further when, just have a green bar or a red bar or a blue bar and a yellow drink, and it will taste amazing. It'll be fun. And you know what? It's convenient. You don't have to cook it. Don't even have to heat it in a microwave. Just open the packet and it's there. We're getting so dissociated from where our food comes from, what a chicken looks like, where an egg comes from. People don't even know what a farm is. They just think, food comes from a supermarket and that's it. But it's getting worse and worse. And partly you can blame the politicians and your Billy Gates and everything, but we also need to take responsibility. Every human being, going back to what I said about the evil man in the castle, we all need to say no. Yep. No, we need to go down, meet our local farmer. We need to make sure we buy our food locally, seasonally. Seasonally. Do you know seasonally is so important and locally because the sunlight affects the wavelength of the light going into the fruit and veg, depending on where in the world it is and when. And in that, light is a coding and messaging. So in the equatorial summer months, like people are going to be storing that sugar for their winter leaner months. And in the winter, when you eat, the light energy says burn it now straight away because you need it to produce heat. Yeah. So if you take food out of season that's been grown elsewhere in the winter, like strawberries and fruit, you just put it around your waist. You just get fat. Yeah. And it goes on and on like that. You need to eat local and seasonal for a reason. It's your biology.
I'll tell you something about local and seasonal. So, when you get poorly, we've told as kids, have some local honey because it's got all the goodness of the local area, builds up your local immune system. Food is exactly the same. So wherever you live, the nutrition in the soil in that area is what you need for that area. So if you eat local food, you get the local nutrition, what your body requires for that area. And this is the problem. Now, I don't know if you've seen, and I'm sure you have, and if any of your viewers haven't seen this, if there's one thing I can advise them to go and check out, is Sainsbury's website. And there is an article on there for the 2030 food summary for Sainsbury's food. Okay?
You're kidding.
No, if you haven't seen this, this is surreal. So it's the 2030 food sustainability document for Sainsbury's. And
Future of Food report.
That's it. Right. So if you read through that, here's what it basically says. By 2030, we do not need any farmers. We will produce all of your food in a factory. You'll be happy to eat maggots. We'll be able to feed you jellyfish.
Yeah, it says that.
Mushrooms.
In 30 years, jellyfish and other invasive species could be found on the fish counter as recent research has found them to be full of nutrients. And we could even be producing lab-grown oil where people can pick up cultured meats and kits to grow meat at home. Meat as we know it today could instead start to become a luxury product. We could start to see a very different food landscape in 150 years as scientists may well be farming in space and sending back their learnings to us on Earth. Yeah, because we don't. Oh, gee, dude, no, what is going on here?
What I don't understand is that's on their website. What the fuck are people still doing shopping there?
I'm not shopping there.
What are people still doing? And I did the talk last night, and I was
shit.
I'd spent. You mentioned earlier about organicity, and I'd spent yesterday working with the girls in their garage, putting the boxes together and working with them, and only delivering a good quality food to people. I went to the room last night, and I said to the room, nearly 100 people there last night, and I said to them, guys, this is on you.
And there's pictures of crickets.
Oh yeah,
they got pictures of crickets. They got pictures. Oh my God. So yeah, they're going to make everything on hydroponics.
Yeah.
They're going to make us eat bugs. Oh, do you know what? That's one thing I'm really upset about. What's his face? Klaus Schwab standing down. How can we take the piss out of him? No, Klaus Schwab. You shall eat the bugs. Now what are we going to do now? And be happy.
But you've got to question, the twat who's took over from him is that idiot from Nestle who said we're not entitled to water, isn't he?
Is that, I don't know.
He's taken over. So the guy who took over is the guy who made a statement a few years ago. He said, we have no rights as humans to have water. Nestle own it all. That's basically what he said.
Oh my God.
He's now in charge of the WWF. It's like, how do you write this shit?
Well, they're clearly following the script from Idiocracy. You watched that movie?
I haven't.
Dude, please. I only watched it like 3 weeks ago. You need to watch it. Idiocracy. It was made in 2006.
Right.
It's scary. It predicts the future. Oh my God, we are there right now.
Right.
No one drinks water. They all drink like this Gatorade thing.
Yeah.
And not just that, the company has convinced everybody that water is poisonous. And now water isn't used for agriculture. This Gatorade is. So all the crops start to die. All the land, soil is like... And this guy with a spoiler alert, I'm sorry. But this guy who's like really not the smartest, sharpest tool in the box, right? He gets transported to the future. And he's now, the guy with one eye, basically, is the king. Because you're in the land of the blind.
Right.
And everybody's thick as pig shit. And basically, he goes, maybe we should put water on the fields and the soil. And they're like, water's poison. And then he puts water on it, and then suddenly seeds start to grow. And it's like, yeah, I mean, just watch that movie. There's so much more to it. It's scary. We're going down that trajectory. And that's what...
Well, they want us to.
They want us to. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why it's not going to work is it's so dumb. Mate. Yeah. It's so unnatural. So dumb. And you know what? If a lot of human beings are falling for it, I just feel like we're already seeing evolution and survival of the fittest. Although I'm not a subscriber to evolution, but that whole survival of the fittest is happening. Because look, the people who are not listening and learning are eating the shit, getting sick, getting fat, and are dying.
Yep.
They're not producing babies.
Yep.
They're becoming trans. Yep. It's a dead end.
Yeah.
They will not whereas the ones who are the conspiracy theorists don't have the fluoride. No. Have reverse osmosis or distilled water and local seasonal pasture fed food and meat and everything and outgrounding and having they are fertile, they're having 5 babies, they are awake and they're going to prosper and they will inherit the earth. So that's a happy ending.
Yeah.
Hi, me again. You're listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or on his Substack, or simply buy him a coffee with one of the donation links which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
It's interesting because as I've been on this journey the past few months doing this tour, and I've always been quite outspoken, and pre-2020...
Really? You seem like quite a shy type.
Pre-2020, I made a kind of prediction on the fact I rang my children, and I've got 4 older children, and I messaged them all and said, kids, I'm very concerned about the fact of where we're going with food. And I think within the next few weeks, there's going to be an issue with food and, kind of need to stock up. And my oldest daughter said to me, Dad, no problem. Been stocking up for months. I can see where it's coming. Got plenty of food in the pantry. My next daughter down said, Dad, I live in an army base. Her husband's a soldier. And she said, you don't need to worry about me. My youngest daughter said to me, oh, Dad, you are funny. I've just been to Tesco's. They've got loads of food. And my son, who lived then with his sister, said, I don't have to worry about the shopping. Lavinia does it. So I was like, okay. So about 2 weeks went past. I get a phone call from my youngest daughter, or from her daughter saying, Granddad, we haven't got any food in the house. I said, well, tell Mummy to go to Tesco's because they've got loads apparently. Don't worry, darling. Granddad, I'll sort it out. So you start bailing out number 1 child. And I had a big farm shop. Now, just give you an idea of the stupidity of people. Pre-pandemic, I had a farm shop that took £100 per day. And we sold 10 vegetable boxes per week. 2 weeks later, we sold £15,000 a day in the farm shop instead of £100. And instead of 10 veg boxes a week, we did 400 a day.
Wow.
Sooner they want to bring back another pandemic, the better. For me, I just thought it was the best time of my life. We never had so much money, I kid you not. Now, what you do see in all of this bullshit and nonsense is how quick things can change, don't you? And we witnessed in that time the nonsense with the food. People suddenly became really aware about things. Oh my God, I need to have raw milk. I need to have organic vegetables. I need to get in.
You need flour to make sourdough.
Yeah, we've got to have it.
Never baked sourdough before, but we need it.
We need it, and I don't know how it goes, but we'll work it out. You could get it through the post. The liquid to make sourdough is like
starter
gold. And about a year later, everyone forgot about it, and they'd gone back to reality. And it's like, Jesus. And I genuinely, I sat there, we were like, God, this is going to change how people eat food. This is going to change everything about it. I've come to the conclusion that supermarkets were never short of food, right?
No, they weren't.
It was all a trial.
Jack Wilkinson, one of my supporters, has made it very clear that they weren't. He was able to just call up the suppliers and have tons of flour and whatever he wanted delivered. It was all manufactured. It was a deliberate crisis. It's all bullshit, man.
I think it was done to test us.
Yeah.
To see how we as the public reacted, to see how farmers could change and manipulate and bend and twist.
So this is what I mean by, sorry for interrupting, like, we can blame the bad people, the people in the castle, but nothing's going to change unless the whole of humanity raises its conscious level and its vibration, its frequency, its energy, and, steps up. Like, we all need to step up. Like, I'm sorry, the vast majority of us are lazy and dumb, don't take responsibility, abdicate our own health to other people. Like, we need to up the level a bit. We need to take care of our community, care for our fellow men and women, but more importantly, ourselves and our family, and love ourselves. But not enough people do. They trash their bodies.
Yep.
Like, totally abuse their own bodies. Like, how are they going to take care of anyone else when they just literally trash their own bodies? And until we literally all, as a whole, step up, right? The bad ones are going to carry on taking the piss out. I mean, like, if you're a bad person, I mean, you must be like feet up on the desk, cigar and a drink, and just chortling away, laughing at the stupidity of all of us. There's so many of them. They could totally screw us overnight. But you know what? We can just manipulate them like little puppets day in, day out, and they don't have a clue. And they're just so easy to manipulate. So easy. And we need to make it really hard for them.
Yeah.
We need to make it hard for them. That's how we win. By making it really difficult for them to the point where they can't do anything anymore. Yeah. But we make it so easy. Like, we gift wrap it and say, here, abuse me, please. Yeah. Oh, is that all you're going to abuse me? Can't you just whip me a little bit more, please? Oh, thank you. Like, we need that mindset to stop. I know that sounds uncomfortable and a lot of people might disagree with me.
I don't.
And I know, like, there's a lot of programming and manipulation and psychology. But like I said, part of your innate, eternal spiritual soul is crying out for you to step up. And we ignore that.
Yep.
And because we ignore it and we live the lie, we have the trauma, we have the insecurities, we have the illnesses.
Absolutely.
We have the unhappiness, the depression, anxiety, because we know we're throttling our true, eternal, beautiful self. And when you live that lie, it eats you up.
It does.
It destroys your core. So everyone listening, I know you're on the same page, but like, that's the message we need to spread out to everyone else. Step up.
Well, one of the things I mention in my talks, and I always ask two questions in the room. So one, we ask the question of, would you, if you could, buy good quality, chemical-free food direct from a farmer? Directly or indirectly, farm shop, box scheme, whatever it might be. But would you buy that if you could? So now, I know, don't get me wrong, a lot of the rooms I'm talking to are already talking to the converted, a bit like your channel. But people like to talk the talk, but do they actually do it? They'll listen to your channel and then go home and go, fuck it, we'll go for McDonald's for dinner. And you go, oh, Jesus Christ, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I get is we get a picture of the whole room with their hands up. And then I send that picture to all the farming WhatsApp groups and say, look, we was in Wendover last night, 100 people want organically, chemically free food.
Nice.
We was in Bedford, 100 people want chemical-free food. We was in
nice.
Right? So it gets the message out. Put it on social media. 200-300 people at a time going, I like that picture. Loads and loads of comments, right? Now, the other side is, one of the things I say to people is, have you ever written to your local MP? And people put their hands up and I say,
complete waste of time.
Did you ever get the response you were looking for? And they go, well, no. I say, okay, here's another suggestion. Write to your local farmer. Farmers don't get no posts from the public. MPs get thousands of letters turning up a day, don't even give a fuck, right? So for us, if a farmer gets a letter and he goes, I better read that. So if you wrote to your local farmer and said, listen, I'd really like to support you in your business.
Yeah.
Is there any opportunity for me to buy any of the produce, what you produce, directly from you? Do you produce any vegetables, any meat? Is there anything I can buy directly to support you and give you the cash rather than a supermarket? Now, it might not be very powerful if one person does it, but what would happen if a whole village wrote to the local farmer? If a whole town wrote to their local farmers?
Yeah.
Right? So I always ask that question. Now, one of the biggest things I started saying in the rooms to people, look, we know this bollocks is about to explode. And my thought is that we have a matter of months before they drop the system. Okay? If that's the case, surely that people like you with a voice and a channel, people like me with my channel, have to say, guys, step the fuck up. When we put a video out, share it. If you like it, tell people about it. Step up, each and every one of you. We all have a part to play in this, in bringing down this woke bullshit system. And if we don't all act together, we're 100%. All going to go down together.
100%. You know, even a simple act as leaving a review or a follow, right? So I'll give an example. I've got quite a lot of 5-star reviews on Spotify, like 500, but that's a fraction of the people listening.
Sure.
I can see the metrics.
Yeah.
Mate, it's a tiny fraction of the people who are listening who go, right, you know what, I'm going to rate this 5-star.
Yeah.
Or, for example, on Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts, they have just as many listeners as Spotify, right? But but half as many reviews. So I don't know if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, for some reason, you guys, like, you don't like leaving a review. I don't understand why. Now, some people might be like, why does it matter? Why does it matter if you leave a 5-star review? Or I don't get paid by them, but there's a reason. I'm going to read it out to you because it's very important. Look, when you leave a 5-star review or if you follow a channel, right, it does actually make a huge difference. It actually boosts the visibility, right? So it makes the more follows and higher ranking on platforms like Apple and Spotify, makes it easier for new listeners to discover it.
Right.
So you're spreading the awareness, right? Then you've got the thing like, imagine you've got 2 restaurants, right? And you go to a town and you see 2 restaurants and one's packed, one's empty. You go to the packed one and you go, oh, the table's going to be half an hour. You still wait half an hour because you don't want to go in the empty restaurant. You're thinking that's empty for a reason.
Yeah.
If it's packed, it must be good.
Yeah.
So if you've got lots of reviews and lots of follows, straight away, the newbie is going to be like, that's a packed restaurant. I want some of that. What's that all about?
Yeah.
Right? All these people are following the Bowler Hat Farm, all are listening on the channel. It must be a good channel. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Right? Same with Doc Malik's podcast. Oh, he's got so many reviews and I need to check it out. He's not a crazy person. He's not some guy in his basement speaking to himself. So it supports independent creators. It helps, grow the show. It attracts more guests and opportunities. Yep. So, if you've got a small channel and small number of follows and reviews, people will be like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy. And right at the beginning of my podcast journey, I had a lot of that. Oh, how many followers you got? Oh, I see you're just starting off. When you get to this size, give me a call. Then I'll be interested. So if you're a listener, do you understand? Like if you want some of these big guests and big people's voices and you want interesting people, it actually helps the bigger our channels are.
Absolutely.
Right? It strengthens the community. More listeners mean more discussions, right? Encourages more content. So all you need to do is leave a 5-star review. It takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And pressing the follow button doesn't even take 1 second.
No.
But you know what? Most people can't even be bothered doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how are we going to change the world? How are we going to fight the evil ones? You can't even get past that hurdle.
I asked a question the other day at a meeting. I said, and I don't know what the answer to this is. How did we, in less than 80 years, get boys to run over the top of a trench at a machine gun at 18, 19 years old? So now, if there was a war, they'd be sat in the bottom of the trench painting their nails. What happened to society? And it's not until you really start to understand things like fluoride and the fact that people can't think for themselves anymore. The food they've been given, the poisons they've been given, the
estrogen
shit from Scott, estrogen, everything what's been pumped into them. And we have, and I will say, I'm 57. You said you're heading up towards 50, right? We are the last men of this planet. And
I've said this. We're humanity's last hope.
We are.
That's terrifying.
That worries me.
I mean, yeah. Look at us, right? Oh my God.
We're 2 old fellas, right? And I look at the kids and I think, Jesus, you lot are in trouble. Because when we're no longer here to defend you, And I don't care. I would die for my kids.
But by the way, listen, there's a big jump in the generation, but trust me, like my little kids, warriors.
Yeah.
Like they're going to inherit the earth.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like all these people in the middle, like, and the problem is like every authoritarian regime falls, but after taking out a huge chunk of humanity.
Absolutely.
And I hate to say this, it's going to be the same. There's going to be a massive culling.
Can I ask a question, though?
Yeah.
And seriously here.
Haven't you been serious so far?
Do you not think with a lot of the retarded bastards who are on this planet, we probably need to lose a few? And I know that's harsh, right? But when you see the stupidity what goes on, whether that's from the people in power or the people that are in the public that have allowed this shit to happen, stand 2 meters apart, wear a mask, queue up for a jab. And I was like, yeah, right. I'm not taking part in any part of this.
I identify as a dog.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, my little boy, look at that gorgeous little boy. I used to have hair like that. I know it's difficult to imagine, right? I swear to God I did. He's going around right now going, Daddy, meow, meow. I'm a little kitty. He's been doing it for a couple of weeks, mate. Walking around on all fours, going meow, meow. I mean, some people out there would be like, he identifies as a cat. We need to help him transition.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, this is what kids do.
Yes.
This is what kids do, right? They go through periods where they experiment and they try out and what it's like to be a girl or a boy or a puppy or a kitten. It's normal.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't mean... like,
that's what they are.
That's what they are.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, the doctors, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the professors of ethics. Are you fucking retarded?
Yeah, but it keeps them in a job, doesn't it? That's the thing.
But shame on them.
Yeah.
At some level, are they actually buying this? And that's where I come back to that core eternal human spirit knows it's bullshit. Yeah. And they keep shutting it down and saying, no. And they invest all this energy to say, no, it's right. And, we're inclusive and we believe in sustainable development. And all the lies, layers of lies, eat them up eventually inside.
Well, I think that's where we're close to now. Let's look at, if we go back, I'm a history lover. So for me, the Greeks, the Romans.
The correct history.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
I know.
But if we look at the Greeks, the Athenians, the Romans, the Tartarians, who have all had massive empires that have all crumbled. If you look through history, they all crumbled because of one thing. They all became woke. They all... it was trendy in Greece to be gay.
Obsessed with sex.
Yeah,
decadent, debauch.
Yeah. They did away with the family units. They did away... We have to go through this. And I think, during 2020 when Prince Charles stood up and said, we need to have a great reset, right? We've had these great resets, I think, thousands of times.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't think it's anything new. And I think what happens is we get to a pinnacle point and then we have to go over the edge. And my partner, Gloria, you met earlier, is very religious, right? I used to think I wasn't religious, right? Now, I assume that I must be Christian because I was born in a Christian country, went to a Christian school, I was married in a Christian church, I was christened. So I celebrate Christmas, Easter. I must be Christian.
Mate, you're ticking a lot of boxes there, mate.
Right? So I must be, right? Now, Gloria is very religious as a Christian, right? And when she came to the UK, she was almost scared to admit she was Christian. Because for her, she's black. So that's one box she's led to believe in this country is an issue. So, you have to be careful, keep your head down because the whites don't like blacks. Oh, okay. So she was very, when we met, it was like, and I took home to to meet my parents. So, and I said, I said to my mum, look, just so you know, Gloria's black. Before we get here, so let's not have no embarrassment about this. She's black. My mum said, good for you, darling. And Gloria's come into the family. We've travelled end to end of this country, and her religion or her colour has not been an issue.
Mate, this is the least racist country in the world.
100%.
I grew up in this country, right? The amount of racist kind of comments and racism that I've experienced. 0.0000001% of my life experience, right? Exposure to people and everything. Don't give me any that this country's racist, but we make it an issue.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid the pendulum has swung from there to there, where now if you're a white, young, straight kid, you're
the odd one out.
You're the one that's prejudiced against.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
And as someone who had a little bit of racism as a kid, I know what racism looks like, and I'm telling you that's racism. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, that's not how you fix it. And if you really want to fix things, just stop talking about colour.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Colour, religion, just stop talking about it. Yep. I'm not interested. What I'm interested in is what is that person like? What are their values like? What's their conduct like? What are their deeds like? Yep. I'm not interested in anything else. And stop banging on about it. But it's all about the diversity quotas and, tick this box. I just tick other now. I don't even want to tell people. I'm like, I don't care. This is not important. Like, it's about who you are as a person that matters. But anyway, we need to wrap up now because we're going to get into trouble. Listen, I need to thank Natalie Bradbury, who's been on the show twice, who does the local food cooperative with Lou Organity. I hope you form some kind of deal with her and sell some of your massive, tasty vegetables. And
we're going to be sending them.
Good, because I get my stuff from her. And listen, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you and meet you.
Thank you.
Hopefully,
and likewise.
Hopefully you've enjoyed this and we're going to be good friends now.
I hope so. We are the disciples of the future. I was told the other day, someone said to me, you're delivering God's... Now, so I'm not religious. For me, it's about the universe, But I think it's the same thing, probably just
same
with
me, mate.
But we are delivering the truth. And I quite happily say to people, if you don't like it, fuck off.
Well, I'm the same, mate. I mean, I know you don't know much about me, but I gave up Islam a long time ago, and I'm not religious, but I believe in God. I believe in Creator. I believe that God is a bit more complicated than we think. It's not an old man with a white beard. No. I think it's all of us. It's this divine consciousness, and we are tiny little threads of that divine consciousness. He's kind of like a massive super mainframe computer that's hived off these tiny little sub-mini computers, and we all think we're autonomous when we're actually much bigger and we're part of this whole. And actually, that's why you and I are the same. Yeah. That's why, even though you think you're different, you've lived your own life, and we're the same, man. Yeah. And then when you're in that state, then you truly love your fellow man and woman. And I think that was a message of Jesus. Yeah. I think that's what Jesus was talking about. That Gnostic scripture that, God isn't just this authoritarian, angry God, you should worship me kind of thing. Actually, God is there, but we are all part of God. Yeah. We're all creations of God, and we are physically part of Him. And therefore, we are part of each other. And that's what we need to do. We need to love each other as we would love ourselves. But we can't, because most people don't even love themselves. They're so disconnected from their divine self, and they've lost their way. So how can you love other people if you don't even love yourself? It's impossible.
Well, we've all got to start somewhere.
Right, listen, final question of the day. You're on your deathbed, you're surrounded by your lovely kids who are now talking to you and don't think you're a crazy person. Now they're thinking, my dad's a legend, right? It can happen, mate. Trust me.
Yeah.
Right, so they're all there, and you're about to meet your maker or whatever, the universe, consciousness, whatever. Before you die and pass on, what words of wisdom, advice parting words would you want to say to your loved ones?
Easy. Look after people on the way up, because you really need them on the way down.
I love it. Listen, mate, I wish you all the best with your tour.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
thebowlerhatfarmer.com or on social media as the Bowler Hat Farmer.
Fantastic. I'll make sure everything's in the show notes just in case anybody misses it, or the Substack. And God bless you. And yeah, we need to save our farmers. We need to save the food in this country, don't we?
People say, I saw, we passed a bridge the other day and there was a banner across the bridge, save the planet. And I'm like, fuck, the planet's going to be fine. That's not why we're in trouble.
Right. Absolutely. The planet is so resilient.
Yeah.
It will sort itself out. It's us. We've just messed up. It's funny. It's 2025. So far, we're moving ahead and we're advanced AI and all this technology and quantum physics. I just think we're ever more retarded. We don't know how to build houses. No. My house is 350 years old. I mean, a modern house falling to bits, full of mold, toxic chemicals.
Yeah.
We don't know how to make food. We don't know how to grow anything. We don't know where anything comes from. Children don't know how to talk. We're not educated. Doctors don't know how to heal. Police don't know how to police. The army doesn't know how to defend its nation.
Yeah.
All it does is act as a mercenary force. I could go on and on and on. Like, we need to sort ourselves out.
But we're good at it.
Yeah. And we're exporting it as well. It's a major export industry.
I'll just tell you this before we go. So Gloria, coming from Nigeria, obviously Nigeria was a British colony. Gloria says there's a standard joke in Nigeria with black people that if you want to hide the truth, put it in a book, because the British are really good at doing that. So, and it's like they talk about the Bible. Obviously, they had a belief of their own before the Christians got there and really fucked things up. But they now have this ability to understand how corrupt the British system is. And she says that's one of the reasons people want to come here, because they can't believe the truth about how fucked up our country is.
Yeah.
And you've only got to walk around the place and you think, in the 50 years we've been about, how much has it changed to an unprecedented? You can't even recognise the place, can you?
Dude, it looks more and more like Pakistan. So I used to go as a kid to Pakistan. That was our summer holiday. It was hell on earth. You're like a 6-year-old kid and you're taking the coach down from Glasgow to London, overnight coach, can't sleep, you're knackered. You then have to wait around the airport for like 8 hours to catch your flight, right? So you're nowhere comfortable to sit. Then you get on the plane and you can't buy any food. There's no food or anything, and we've just got whatever mum and dad's brought us. Then we get on the plane and it stops and breaks down. We have to stop in Cairo, and then the hours there, and then you fly to Pakistan, and then the electricity's going off and it's hot and there's mosquitoes, and you're doing your poo in a hole on the ground and the water's going off. Then you get food poisoning. This was my holiday. And one of the things I used to remember as a little kid was like there were potholes everywhere. I'm like, oh my God, how do people drive? Cars having to swerve and like, dude, have you seen the roads? Like, the potholes aren't potholes. They're car killers.
Yeah.
I've spent a fortune fixing my car because, like, it's not always me. My wife as well has been guilty. Where, like, it's at night, can't really see it, last minute, and you can't swerve because there's other oncoming traffic. And then, and right now, our car is going to be going to the garage because there's an air valve thing that's been cracked. So it's feeding the wrong, and it's like, because some stupid pothole. Yeah. Like, we're literally driving around the roads that I remember as a kid in Pakistan. Right? It's that bad, mate.
That's exactly what Gloria says.
Is it?
Exactly the same thing about Nigeria.
But over there now, in Pakistan, the roads are really good.
That's exactly what she's saying. In the cities, the roads are really good now. She said, it's different out in the villages, but in the cities, their roads have come up. Well, of course they have, because all our aid keeps going overseas.
Dude, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad on so many levels. And it's like, I mean, like, we could talk forever, but we need to wrap up now, because I know you're going to another farm now. Listen, God bless you. It's been really nice meeting you. I hope you enjoyed it.
I've loved it. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been a blessing.
All right, man. Take care. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts, and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations, and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence, and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm, or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.